I'm joined by Liberal House Leader Karina Gould. Hamilton Liberal MP Chad Collins told us Justin Trudeau should step down now. Why do you continue to support Trudeau?
Well, look, I think what was very clear this week is that the Prime Minister has said that he has a lot to reflect on. And so I'm going to allow him the time and the space to have that reflection. But look, over the last 9 years, he has had quite, an impressive legacy for Canada. I mean, renegotiating NAFTA, particularly in the Hamilton and Burlington area, this is so important, making sure those steel and aluminum tariffs were lifted, the incredible social programs that we've been able to put in place, like childcare, which in the new year in our community and across the province are going to go down to an average of $22 a day. The really important work we've done to stimulate the economy, what we've done through the pandemic, all of that is a result of his leadership. And so, I have been proud to serve alongside him and proud of the legacy that we've been able to deliver for Canadians, and know that there's still a lot more that we can and should and want to be able to do for people in our communities, but also right across the country.
Yeah, it's been a tumultuous week. When did you find out that Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland was resigning, and what did you think when you first heard that?
Well, I found out at the same time as everybody else on Monday morning, and of course, it was shocking. It was disappointing. But I have tremendous respect for my colleague Chrystia Freeland. Again, she has been such an integral part of our Liberal team and has so much that she's contributed to Canada. And the things that I mentioned, in terms of standing up for Canada, in our economy, for standing for the things that we care about around the world. And of course, the important programs that, probably wouldn't have happened had she not been in the roles that she was in over the last number of years. So, I'm very grateful for everything that she has contributed to Canada.
Yeah, and looking at the fall economic statement that was dropped in your lap after she resigned, why did the deficit balloon to $61.9 billion when your government promised to keep it to $40 billion?
Yeah, so it's an important distinction to make in the sense that the additional spending that was accounted for in the fall economic statement is what's called contingent liability. And so it's not that money has been spent, but it's money that has been booked. It's an important accounting practice, and it's a transparency requirement from the government to let Canadians know that this is money that is owed to Indigenous peoples across this country to right historical wrongs. And so even though that money has not yet been spent, it's money that has been allocated because the government knows it will have to spend it at some point. So that's part of the reason. So the actual deficit is about $40 billion, which, is still significant, but it's in response to making sure that, we are stimulating the economy, that we are helping Canadians with affordability measures. And Canada continues to have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, and is in a good fiscal position when it comes to our peer countries around the world.
Yeah, and there are reports that there's going to be a cabinet shuffle tomorrow. Is there anything you could tell me about that?
No, I find out about these things at the same time as everybody else. Cabinet shuffles are usually kept very close, so we'll have to wait and see if tomorrow that happens or not.
And going back to the Prime Minister, is he considering resigning or proroguing Parliament?
Not to my knowledge. Again, these are not things that are widely discussed, but certainly in my position as government House Leader, we were asked every day this session if prorogation was in the cards, and we made it to the end of the session. And even though it was a bit more tumultuous than previous sessions over the past 9 years, we still managed to get really important things done for Canadians, like passing the GST holiday, which took effect last Saturday and will run till February 15th, as well as getting important spending approved, like things like the National School Food Program, support for our Canadian Armed Forces, support for housing, and a number of other issues that matter for Canadians.
Yeah, and can you describe what it's like to stand up in the House of Commons like you did on Monday and answer questions for the Prime Minister in the face of so much criticism this week?
Well, that's my job as government house leader is to, respond on behalf of the government, even in difficult times. And so, it is a tough job, but that's the job that I have. And it was certainly a difficult day on Monday. One that was challenging, but at the same time, I think it's really important that we continue to demonstrate to Canadians that we are effectively governing the country and that things continue even when surprises occur or things that are unexpected. And so I was just doing the job that I had at the time.
Yeah, many polls are showing the Conservatives are far ahead in public opinion. What makes you confident the Liberals can win the next election?
Well, look, elections are always challenging and things always happen unexpectedly. And, there's a famous saying in politics that a week is a lifetime in politics. And so things can and they do change. I do think that, polls between elections, tend to be different than what you actually see during an election. And I can say that when I speak to people in my community, absolutely, there are frustrations with the federal government right now. I'm not going to pretend that there aren't, but there are also a lot of people who are very worried about what this current iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada would do, all the cuts that they would make to the programs and the services that Canadians rely on. They're very worried about some of the, very extreme right-wing approaches of Pierre Poilievre and some of his the people around him. So, when you get into an election, it certainly focuses the mind and the choice that you have to make about what kind of future you want for your community and for your country. And so, one never knows what's going to happen in an election, but what I am confident about is that the Liberal Party of Canada still has the best plan for this country, is the party that is the biggest tent, that brings in the most people, that has the most diversity of ideas, and is the one that can continue to guide Canada through some very rocky times. We got through the first Trump administration and some of the trade challenges that were presented. We got us through the pandemic, which was extremely difficult, but in a way that set us up better than almost any other country in the world. And we also got ourselves through, with Canadians, what was a very challenging time post-pandemic, and in a world that is very tumultuous right now. And so I think having that steady leadership, that experience, is something that is going to be really important as we navigate what continues to be a very rocky road ahead.
Yeah, and speaking of a tumultuous time right now, I want to ask about how other Liberal MPs and politicians from other parties have recently resigned from politics due to the nasty nature of social media and the general decline in the level of public discourse. Will you run again?
That's my plan. Yeah, being a member of Parliament, representing Burlington, getting to serve in the House of Commons is the most extraordinary opportunity and privilege that I could ever imagine. And despite a lot of the challenges, the pressure, I still really love it. And being able to represent my community, to be able to advance ideas, have debate, contribute to my country in such a meaningful way is something that I cherish. And so long as the wonderful people of Burlington would like to have me, I would like to continue to have their trust to represent them. But as you say, from when I started a decade ago to where we are today, the level of discourse has really decreased, unfortunately, in this country. And, a lot of that is because of some of the rhetoric that we hear from the leader of the opposition. And I think that's really unfortunate. But, I'll continue to carry myself in a respectful way, with grace and humility, and hope that that's something that others take on as well.
Yeah, and with this discourse, why do you feel it's important to stay in the game?
Because I don't think we should cede the ground to nastiness. I don't think that's who we are as Canadians. I understand, there are people, and there are people who are frustrated, and they have legitimate frustrations. But we should be able to discuss them in a way that is respectful of each other as people. And that's the point of democracy, right? Like, the point of democracy is to be able to have these debates, to have these arguments, but in a way that is peaceful and that is respectful. I mean, that tensions can rise. You can, people's temperaments flare, and that's okay. But not to do it in a way that furthers harassment or violence, or makes people feel unsafe or to be unsafe. So I'm going to keep fighting to have that respectful discourse in our country. I know that's who Canadians are at their core, and that's something that I believe in so strongly.
Yeah, and looking to your Burlington constituents, what do you hope they take away from the past 9 years of a Liberal rule?
Well, I hope that we have, demonstrated that inclusive prosperity is what the objective is. Certainly times are tough right now, but when you look at the programs that we've been able to put in place, whether it's affordable childcare, childcare fees are going down to an average of $22 a day starting in January in Ontario. That makes a huge difference in people's lives. We've been able to increase pensions for seniors again, really working to support the most vulnerable across our country. And we've made huge investments when it comes to things like housing, when it comes to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. But also when it comes to our economy, I mean, in Hamilton, like, the investments that we're making in the steel industry are massive, and they're going to mean that we're going to have a viable, productive steel industry for another 100 years in this country and in this community. And, like, if I think about Hamilton, I mean, the exciting investments in the medical field, in advanced manufacturing, in just a wide range of industries that are making our community prosperous, is very, very exciting. And so it's a vision for Canada to lead in the 21st century. And that's something that, I'm excited about. I'm an optimist. I'm a hopeful person. And, I think investing in our community, in our country, and our people is what's setting Canada up for success and for the way to lead forward into the 21st century.
And lastly, I just want to know what you have heard from your constituents about how they're feeling about what has happened over these past 4 days.
Sure. Well, a wide range of things. I mean, I think, I'm not going to pretend that Monday wasn't a shocking day. And so I heard a number of people who were shocked by what happened, who are saddened by what happened. Some people who, see opportunity for renewal, but, a wide range of reactions for sure. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from folks in my community about how calm I was on Monday. We're just going to have to see what happens. I think a lot of people are asking what this means, and I guess my response there is a reassurance that we're going to be able to continue to deliver for Canadians, and that's our job as the government, and that's what we're focused on.